Look, whether it's a tricky flop shot over a bunker, an explosion shot for some greenside sand, or just a run-of-the-mill chip shot, everybody's looking for more spin and more control in their short game. And TaylorMade thinks it has just the tool to get the job done. This is the new MG4 wedge, and in this video, I'm going to tell you everything about it. Now, the MG4 wedges are cast from 8620 carbon steel, which is a very soft material. But the first thing that everyone's going to notice when they look at this club is that it has a sticker, which is covering the entire face and the entire hitting area. And that sticker obviously is designed to be removed once you make the purchase of this club, because underneath this sticker is a raw steel finish. Now, while the back of the golf club and many of the other areas have been chromed over so they won't corrode, that raw steel face over time and with exposure to water and air is going to rust very, very slowly. Now, once you have peeled away that sticker, you're going to be left with a very, very unique hitting surface. Now, between the grooves on the MG3 wedges, which these MG4s are going to be replacing, there was a raised micro rib. Those are gone now in the MG4 family of wedges, and there's a new treatment that's called spin treads. Basically, what's happening here is in between each groove, TaylorMade is using a laser to etch in at a 45-degree angle a series of lines that look like sort of little dashes, and they're designed to work like the grooves in your tires. And that means that they're going to get water and moisture and debris off of the hitting surface and away from the golf ball at the moment of impact. The more effectively they can do that, the more effectively you're going to be able to maintain spin. And that's a big story when it comes to the MG4 wedges. You see, for the most part, in dry conditions, the MG4 wedges are going to produce about the same amount of spin that the MG3 and even the MG2 wedges produce. But what they're going to do in wet conditions is perform much, much better. And again, that is going to be attributed, according to TaylorMade, to this spin tread design. It helps the wedges protect spin in wet conditions. And that doesn't mean just in the wet rough on a rainy day. That could be, for example, morning dew in the middle of a fairway. If you stripe one right down the middle of the fairway first thing in the morning and there's dew on the golf ball and the grass is a little bit damp, you are going to be losing a little bit of spin and a little bit of performance on your wedges. According to TaylorMade, this spin tread is going to help to reduce that loss of that spin. Now, to enhance feel, TaylorMade added just a little bit more mass on the back flange here. And what that's going to do is slightly, very slightly, lower the center of gravity. Not so much to really change the flight of shots that you're going to be hitting with these wedges, but putting a little bit more metal, a little bit more mass directly behind where you're going to be hitting the golf ball most often just creates a little bit more solid strike. I had a chance to be at the Travelers Championship at the end of June when TaylorMade brought these wedges to the PGA Tour for the very first time. Colin Morikawa, Rory McIlroy, other players all sort of noted that it felt like a little bit more solid strike. It was a softer strike, but a more solid strike. And they all seemed to like it. And these MG4 wedges immediately went into the bag of many TaylorMade staff players at that event in Connecticut. Again, Colin Morikawa put some right into play. Rory McIlroy put some right into play. They wouldn't do that if they didn't like the feel of these wedges. Now, as I said, these wedges are cast. However, after the casting process, they are also milled. MG in MG4 stands for milled grind. And the milling takes place on the bottom of the golf club as well as the transition area from the hosel into the sole itself. You'll see that there are tiny little lines back and forth that are covering the bottom of this golf club in the sole area. Those marks are made by a high-speed bit that passes back and forth over the bottom of the golf club and shaves off tiny ribbons of material until the precise design that the engineers at TaylorMade are looking for is achieved. And that leads us to a very interesting development when it comes to the MG4 wedges. TaylorMade has historically had 4 different offerings when it comes to sole grind configurations: a low bounce, a standard sole, as well as a high bounce, and also a Tiger Woods grind option as well. However, with the MG4 family of wedges, 3 more wedge grinds have been added to create more variety, to give players more options. There is a standard bounce C grind. Now, the standard bounce C grind is going to have about 9 degrees of bounce. However, because there is going to be so much heel and toe relief, players should be able to open that wedge up and slide the leading edge underneath the ball when they have that open face. When they don't have that open face, they're going to be able to take advantage of having that 9 degrees of bounce. There's also going to be a low bounce V grind option, which has 7 degrees of bounce for players who are going to be in conditions where either the ground is very, very firm, the sand is extremely compacted, or if they tend to sweep the ball off of the turf rather than having a steep angle of attack and being a digger. And finally, there is a new high bounce W grind. Now, the high bounce W grind, again, is going to be available as a 58 and a 60-degree lob wedge only, but it's going to have 13 degrees of bounce, and this is by far the widest sole grind option in the TaylorMade MG4 lineup. That means if you're looking for something that's going to be very forgiving out of bunkers, something that from thick, gnarly, wet rough, you're looking for basically a cheat code, that wide sole acts as a gigantic skim plate, and that will really help to keep the leading edge up above the level of the sand and keep it from digging into the ground. So if you're somebody who really struggles from bunkers, you might want to definitely give a try to that high bounce W grind. TaylorMade made some of the MG4 wedges available to me to try, and I can tell you, if you take your thumb and you basically just slide it across the face after you've peeled the sticker off, you can definitely feel some of the burrs and a little bit more of the surface roughness on the face. There's more friction here, especially if you sort of flip the wedge over and feel the softness of the chrome part where it's very, very smooth, and then you come right back to the face. You can feel that there's a scratchiness to it. Now, how much you're going to be able to spin the ball more because of that scratchy surface, that's going to be debatable. What was interesting to me is when I went out for an early morning test run and I put these wedges through their paces, trying a wide variety of different shots, I felt like I was getting a really nice response, a lot of performance, a lot of spin, even though it was the first thing in the morning and some of the grass was still damp, there was still dew that was on some of the fairways. The wedges seemed to produce a pretty ample amount of spins. Shots went up in the air easily. They felt very soft at the moment of impact. And I also felt that some of the bounces, even the very standard bounce, which isn't the sexiest, most exotic, sort of soul grind out there, it performed very, very well and gave a lot of versatility. You're able to get a wide variety of shots up and around the greens. The softness of it definitely was something that I felt was a little bit more of an enhancement over the MG3, but softness and feel and sound, those are all subjective things. If you've been playing MG3 and you try MG4, you may have a different experience than me. Hey, look, thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned a couple things about the new MG4 wedges, and if you did, it would be really helpful to me if you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button so you can get notifications when I've got new video content coming out. We've got lots more things that are going to be rolling out this month as well as into September and throughout the fall, so you definitely don't want to miss anything. Thanks a lot for watching.